I can't believe that it is already time to open up another Figura Obscura. It feels like Ganesha was like 2 weeks ago. Like I know it was months ago. Like the time hasn't changed. The it's still like these drops are fairly routine. They have been. I mean, there's no guarantee they're going to continue to be, but they have been. And this one kind of fits, that early fall, late September kind of drop that we've been doing. But I don't know why. It just the time goes by so fast. I'm a teacher, so like summer's off, and summers always go by way too fast. Um, but I'm here for it. Even though the summer does blow by, I am totally here for it, and I'm ready for a fall Figura drop, right? And it's like this tradition now where you get the late September, early October, the drop, right? And everybody talks about it. And then the orders start shipping out in the middle or maybe late October or whatever. They start shipping out and people start getting them in hand. And then Halloween hits. And then the next thing you know, it's Legion's Con time, right? And then that kind of like is a bridge into the holiday season with Thanksgiving. And then there's another Figura drop as we get close to Christmas. And so it's almost like the Four Horsemen and these traditions. And this is why I think I like the fall drop the best. I think it's my favorite drop of the year because it's like it kicks off the rest of the fall where we get into Legion's Con and holidays and everything else. And it's just like this tradition now. Now, this being the fall drop, this presumably, there's no guarantee, but presumably it'll probably have kind of a horror theme or some sort of, spooky, monstrous, ghostly kind of thing. They aren't necessarily Halloween figures, but they fit in really well with the Halloween season, and oftentimes these things are, associated with it. But so if it's going to be like, let's go back through. We had the Headless Horseman based on a book. We had Mask of the Red Death based on a short story. We had Frankenstein's Creature based on a book. So are we going to get another book, or are they going to kind of shift gears and throw us something different? Like it could be mythological. Like you could have a Medusa, and it would totally fit in with the kind of a scary kind of looking creature, and it would totally fit in with the season in that kind of like spooky or frightening theme. But if we're going books, maybe they continue with that Victorian thing. We could get more Victorian diorama pieces with like a Dracula or a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I personally, also literary, but also folklore. I think that the Red Riding Hood and Wolf would be amazing. Now, I don't think that's this because this doesn't have 2-pack written on it to me. Like it's just not wide enough. Same thing with Jekyll and Hyde. Like I wonder if they would do a 2-pack so that you could have Hyde be like huge and monstrous, and you could have Jekyll be a normal human, or if they would do it as like a single where it transforms back and forth between whichever one you want to have. So yeah, I mean, we could have that. We could have Dracula. We could have cryptids, right? Like I was talking about these last time. Last time I had shared the booklet from the Graveyard Skeletons pack that said cryptids it mentioned cryptids in the description for Figura Obscura brand. So it could be cryptids. It could be like the Jersey Devil is one that a lot of people think is coming at some point because Four Horsemen are from Jersey. It's got a lot of rich history, connections to like U.S. history and stuff like that. So Jersey Devil, or maybe like a Bigfoot or something else along those lines. But if I'm going to have to commit to a prediction, and again, I don't get the Friday teaser. So I have nothing going into this. It's just like a blank prediction. So I have no way of like interpreting the clues that they give us. So if I'm going to go with one, I'm going to go with probably one of the most obvious ones, and I'm going to stick with Dracula here as my prediction. But let's find out what's in this box. I am so excited. I love this stuff. Okay, here we go. We're going to crack this thing open. Let me get it. Like I said, it feels like a regular size box, like a single figure, not some large thing, but here we go. Let me close the knife here. All right, let's find out what it is. All right, it's right on the top. It is... Oh, it's another big square box like Ganesha. This is what I'm seeing here. It's hard to tell what it is. This is what I'm seeing here when I first open it. Okay, we got a forest, a wintry forest in a being that's hard to see what it is in the distance. A hooded figure. It is the Jersey Devil. There we go. Nice. Now, who is this? So I don't know a ton about the Jersey Devil, but there is a hooded character right here in the background. And then we have some like ruins over here. Again, I'm presuming this is Nate's artwork. It's hard to, I can't read it right now, but there we go. We got the Jersey Devil. Let me open this up, get a quick look at it in the box. Yeah, this is going to be sweet. Let me get this open. All right. Let's take a look at this thing. I know there's like connections to there's some connection to Ben Franklin with the Jersey Devil. And of course, Jeremy's going to have the write-up. There's probably a booklet inside and all that stuff. The Leeds Devil or the Jersey Devil. Leeds Devil runs rampant in Jersey. So it's almost like a newspaper article here on the back. All right, here we go. Let's crack this open. And oh, geez, I don't have enough light here. Okay. Oh yeah. Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, that is a great looking figure. Again, it's so dark in there because the background is pretty dark and the figure is dark, so it's kind of hard to see it. But I'm gonna crack this thing open and get it on the table. But it's got a couple different head sculpts. It's got a brand new body. It looks like kind of like these furry legs, obviously like hooves on the bottom and stuff. Yeah, that's cool. Got a big tail here and more of the same artwork around the box. And then this will probably be the pin right here, and we'll get shirts and stuff like that. So very, very cool. I kind of predicted. I mentioned Jersey Devil. I didn't commit to that as my prediction, but I kind of did a little bit. We knew it was coming, and here it is. All right, let's get into this thing. DorkLair. Jersey Devil out of the box, looking fantastic. To me, when I see depictions of the Jersey Devil, they always look awkward and weird and kind of goofy, but the Horsemen have like really made this thing just look absolutely badass and super cool looking, you know? So that's, you know, kind of a testament to like what those guys do. I think when Eric Treadaway is sculpting creatures and monsters and just kind of letting loose on the creativity with that stuff, it just always comes out so well. And I do want to say thank you to the Four Horsemen Studios for including me yet again in this just awesome weekend of an event, of an action figure event. Like it's just such an honor to be a part of it. And I want to say thank you again, as always. I will say that my intro, when I was opening the box, I was under the impression that this was going to release on September 23rd, and I was going to have like a whole month to do the review and stuff. And so that's why I was like, yeah, this is a totally normal drop. It's a September drop. But what's happening is, for timing, they had to do the actual drop and the online sale early. The figure's going to ship at the usual time, I think in like October as usual with a fall drop. But the actual drop is so early because they just have a lineup of stuff that they have to get to, and they had to do the drop early. So this is not a factory sample or anything. I'm pretty sure this is a full production release. It had the shrink wrap on the box and everything. So this is not a pre-production sample or anything. I have a full-on, just an early shipped out version of it. So so this is the Jersey Devil, and it's got such a weird story. You have the involvement of Ben Franklin in sort of the, possibly, at least a theory, that he was involved in the proliferation of the Leeds Devil, the Jersey Devil, as it was formerly called. So yeah, it's an interesting story. It does come with the typical booklet that they all come with, sort of mini comic sized booklet, and it's got all sorts of information. The artwork, if you notice here, artwork by Tom Tolman and Nate Barch, which means Tom Tolman did the majority of the art. I think Nate, according to Jeremy, Nate may have done some of the rough sketches, like of the initial stuff, and then Tom did most of the work on finishing and all the details and stuff on the art. But Jeremy did say that Nate did the this portrait of the head here, and there's a picture of somewhere in here. So I think Nate did the rough on this, and then Tom did the final details, and then Tom did this as well. It says it Tom Tolman for this drawing right here, which is fantastic. So really cool book. Got a lot of history about the Jersey Devil. I didn't know a lot about it. I had kind of a cursory like knowledge, but just kind of like diving in and learning a little bit more about like kind of the birth of the thing, like where the legend is that this woman had her 13th child and cursed it, and it came out as this devil thing, and it flew away and it attacked everybody and stuff. But very cool stuff. And this is what I'm talking about, where it's like, you see depictions and it just seems so weird and awkward, but for them to, make this guy, it just came out so good. And it does not feel awkward or weird or anything. It's just, I mean, it's weird. It's always going to seem weird, but it's not goofy. And as always, it's got the beautiful Figura Obscura packaging. The wraparound has this forest depiction. It has some ruins, and it has some other characters in there from Jersey local legend, the Black Dog, and a few other things in there. There's this stag and this girl sort of off in the back. And then that is repeated on the box itself. And you've got Jersey Devil on the front, and then you've got, more of that forest scene. And then on the back of the box is what looks like a newspaper article, which is Jeremy's copy, his write-up of, a description, the quick description. And you have the further, more detailed description in the booklet. And then when you look inside the wraparound on the inside, it's a nice wintry backdrop for your figure if you want to like pose the figure on there. It's beautiful, and Tom did just an amazing job on all of the details on this thing. And finally, the insert inside the box has a map of New Jersey with all of the locations of the sightings of the Jersey Devil, and a picture of the original Leeds home and some other things on there. And I love how they included Little Falls, New Jersey in there. That's a nice little touch. And here we have a nice close-up of the Jersey Devil with the alternate head on there. Or actually, this is the primary head that was on it in the box, and then you have the alternate screaming head. Interesting construction here. So you have a pretty standard body. In fact, this is a new mold of the same body that was used on the Frankenstein's creature. So this really is, from the waist up, the arms, it's Frankenstein's creature, just newly molded without all of the stitches. So it's larger, it's longer. It's definitely like compatible with 1.0, but it's a lot bigger than 1.0. You might call it brute scale. But this neck piece, this collar piece, actually pegs into the neck joint on this body. And then there's another peg that puts his head on here. And I'll disassemble it later to show you. But it's a pretty neat construction that gives it that kind of elongated goat-like look there with the neck. And there's definitely some layering to the colors. It kind of looks solid black, but there's some like reddish browns mixed in on the body here. You can definitely see them when you look at the fur parts of it, but it's definitely like, it's a little more subtle when you get, I think you kind of see it on the arms a little bit more, but when you get into the body of it, it's not just a solid black. And then as we get down into the lower half, the fur area, he does have a overlay belt piece. It's functionally the same as your typical belts, but this creates that transition from the torso into the fur of the lower body. And these are the Windagi legs. So this is the first time we're getting a double jointed knee on a Mythic Legions figure in hand. And it does work nicely, and we'll go over that in the articulation. So yeah, and then he's got brand new hooves. So these are not the regular hooves because, you know, those have armor on them. These are the newer hooves on here with, you know, like a lot of different points of articulation in the legs, which is really nice for getting them into crouching positions and stuff. And then finally, they did use the standard wing. So these are your, you know, your Arethyr wings, your typical, you know, dragon bat style wings that that Mythic Legions figures have. But as you can see, they did a faded transparency here. So when you look at that, it's got that like membrane kind of feeling to it with all the veins and stuff in there. And just kind of a look at the back at how that looks. I think it looks fantastic. They did a really good job there. And the tail, and it pegs in to your normal boom boom hole. It does twist over here, and it does have a bendy wire with that forked end to kind of complete the look. And this figure just looks fantastic. And here he is fully upright, and he's definitely a tall figure. He comes in at about 8¼ inches to the top of the head and over 9 inches to the top of those horns. And starting off the comparisons with some other Figura Obscuras, I felt like these two were the most appropriate to compare it to because, you know, this is a demon like Krampus. So it's almost like the evolution of what could happen if they were to like redo Krampus or something like that, right? Krampus being primarily a Mythic Legions Kickstarter wave figure, like the body, and then you just have the fur and the head and the tail and stuff. So if they were to redo it now, it could be something closer to what this Jersey Devil is. And then Frankenstein's creature, like I said earlier, shares parts with the Jersey Devil. The torso and the arms are essentially the same. What they did was they went into the digital file, removed the stitches, and then had the factory cast new molds of this body. So now they have molds with the creature's body. I'm not sure if they did the legs too, but they have at least the torso and arms with or without the stitches that they could use. And they used that one without the stitches on the Jersey Devil, and it looks fantastic. And you can see like side by side, they're shoulder to shoulder, they are like the exact same height. It is the same body, and it's really cool to have that big longer body in this color. I mean, as far as like customs go, this is going to be almost more useful than the creature's body because it doesn't have the stitches. I think a lot of people are going to like having that piece. And here he is next to a couple knights. I wanted to share a standard Mythic Legions 1.0 figure on the left with the Paladin and a standard 2.0 Mythic Legions knight with Hadriana, so that you just get a good sense of those standard builds next to this guy who is huge. And here he is next to a couple ogre scale figures, and height-wise, he's very close to those guys. You know, that 9-inch height for ogre figures is kind of where this is, but he's obviously much more slender, a much smaller build. He just kind of gets up there in height because of those long horns. And bringing in some other lines, we have a couple Frazetta Conans. On the left is the Mezco version with some Kylab extra parts on there. And on the right is the Frazetta Girls version from Icon Collectibles. Here we have the Jersey Devil next to the Maestro Union Blademaster Wang on the left and the NECA Ultimates Dungeons & Dragons Warduke on the right. Here we have the Armies of Ashmore Rydor on the left and the Masterverse New Eternia Clawful on the right. And then here we have a couple 6-inch mass retail Hasbro figures, Marvel Legends Maximum Spider-Man on the left, and G.I. Joe Classified Cobra Trooper on the right. And finally, a couple indie lines. On the left is the Valaverse Praetorian Fury version, and on the right is Odious from Unparalleled Universe. For accessories, he does have the primary head sculpt here with the mouth closed, and then there's the second head sculpt with the mouth open, making me kind of wonder, like, what does this thing sound like? Like, what kind of a noise does this thing make? But yeah, that head sculpt's awesome. This is my favorite. I like this head the best. He does come with 2 sets of hands. He's got this pair of action gesturing hands right here. And then he has a pair of gripping hands, which typically this character wouldn't have. But I think they just kind of threw him in because they threw in a couple weapons with him. Even though this character would not really have a weapon, it just gives people an option to mix things up a little bit. And then he does have the tail. And as I said earlier, it's got a bendy wire. It's got a peg that goes into the butt, and then it's got this part here that can twist. And here's just another look at those wings. Again, these are standard demon wings from Mythic Legions, but they have that transparency that gives them that membrane kind of look to them. I think these wings are awesome and would be like a really good option for, you know, swapping them out with some other figures. And then he does come with some bones here. And essentially this is supposed to kind of like represent like the bones of his victims. Obviously these have wraps because they're weapons and you could use them as weapons for him, but it's a head sculpt, I believe this is like a jawbone and then like a big leg bone right here. And these are, I think this is the first time we're getting these because these are Cosmic Legions pieces. Actually, these come with the Thraxians, I believe. And for the first time ever, a Figura Obscura figure comes with the Four Horsemen stand. This is the waist grabber piece, and you kind of push these together and slide it up depending on what you want to do. So that if you want to make him kind of like a little more up, maybe flying a little bit, you can totally do that. It comes in two pieces and you just kind of screw this in down here, but it's got the Four Horsemen logo on the bottom. But these are the same as the stands that they sell on their website every once in a while. And so he doesn't feel quite as loaded out as some of the other ones, but those other figuras, they tend to really lend themselves to accessories, and this character just really does not. Like, there's not really much you can justify saying, oh, he should come with a clock or a, I don't know, like whatever, like diorama piece or something. So they did a good job. I mean, he's got the wings, he's got the alternate head, he's got the bone pieces, and it comes with a stand. So in my opinion, the value is pretty much there. It just doesn't feel kind of as, I don't know, intricate and involved as some of the other ones. But I kind of like that. It's almost like a simplified Figura drop, you know, and it just kind of like the attention is on this guy, on the figure itself. For articulation, this big furry neck piece pegs into the neck of the torso, but it doesn't allow for any movement, and I don't think you would really want it to move because the wings do peg in here, and if this thing were moving around, it would be dislodging the wing. So this is fairly static when you have it in this mode, and then the head is on a double ball joint. It can look up, it can shift down, so you know, like kind of a good dynamic range of motion in the head there, side to side. I'll pop it off so you can see the ball joint here. So it kind of moves on both balls, the one in the neck and the one in the head. So good range in that head there, considering there's all that fur and everything that might get in the way. And then at the shoulder, it's got a hinge, comes up to just about even with the shoulders, and then that'll swing up this far. If you want to like bring it outwards to swing it all the way around, it will go around. And then they hang nice and flat over here. And then the elbows, single jointed, come up a little bit past 90 degrees. And then you have a twist at the elbow. You do have a twist at the wrist with a hinge as well. And then I'm noticing a little paint chip right here that I'm not sure if I did that. I have to go back to the early part of the video and see if it's something I just didn't notice earlier or what, or how the heck I would paint that. Because this is soft. This should not be chipping any of the paint. Like, you know, I had him in a crouch position, but I don't think this thing would chip away at the paint. But anyway, back to the articulation. This thing has a ball jointed waist. He can go back and forward and side to side. And then we have the typical hips. They're going to get a little jammed up on his waist piece, right? Like it's going to kind of come forward here, but they can kick that far forward. They can go back a good amount. There's a twist at the top of the leg, and then we have those double jointed knees that can come up this far. And so now we don't have any kind of twist at the knee because we do have the double joint. So there's a little sacrifice there, but the foot has multiple points of articulation. It's got this piece here that really does a lot of good work when getting them into like crouching poses. And then that has a twist above it. And then you have the typical foot, which is a little, the ratchets on this are super tight, but you have that hinge at the ankle, and then you have a rocker at the ankle as well. So overall, movement wise, he does move around well. And I should probably talk about the wings in case you're not familiar with the Mythic Legion's wings. There's a hinge right here, and then there's a hinge and twist. Once you're pegged in, that will twist as well. And before we get into some pop and swaps, I just wanted to show you what the body looks like without that big neck piece on there. You can see it just pegs right into the top there. And you really get a sense of this being that Frankenstein's creature body once you take that off. It does have a hinged neck, so if you're doing head swaps and stuff, it's going to have some nice range right there. All right, for some pop and swaps, the first thing I wanted to do was to try out the Anubis feet on the Jersey Devil legs, which I think looks pretty good. The tones match up pretty well. You know, you have some stark cuts in terms of like browns to the dark browns to the lighter browns and stuff. But overall, I think it's a pretty cool look. And I was just looking for a figure that would kind of match up color wise, and the brown and blacks in the limbs of the shadow orc work pretty well. Plus, like, I've always felt like the shadow orc's face has some kind of like dog-like qualities. So almost like bulldog or something like that. So yeah, I'm kind of liking the look of this, weird monstrous version of the shadow orc with those furry legs. Next one I have is the fur belt loincloth thing from the Jersey Devil on the legendary barbarian to kind of like get it just a little closer to He-Man, right? With that fur underwear that he has on, like that kind of like works. And you can't really just do it straight up because it has the kind of like lower part of the torso sculpted in with that Jersey Devil piece. So I put a barbarian belt on top of it, and it also helps to cover up the back where there's like a gap for the tail. So kind of combining these together gives it that kind of barbarian wearing the like fur underwear kind of look, a little closer to that He-Man look. Probably one of the most obvious ones I did. This is Frankenstein's creature's legs and coat and, the upper body from the Jersey Devil, creating kind of like this lanky undead character. And I think it looks good. Like, it makes sense to use those parts. It's proportionally going to look good. Nice long legs to go with the long torso and the long arms and stuff. I was kind of having trouble figuring out what head to use on this swap. The best thing I could come up with was the barbarian head sculpt from the original, barbarian deluxe set, and it looks pretty good. But if you have ideas for any other head sculpts that you think would look good on this build, let me know in the comments. So final thoughts on this figure: there's just like a lot of new stuff going on. We get a teaser of those double jointed legs. We've got some new body parts, essentially, because it's the creature's parts but without the stitching. I am a little bummed that I have a little gash there, but I think I did that. I don't think it actually came like that. That was just an accident, I believe. But yeah, this guy's looking awesome. I love those wings. Fantastic stuff. Again, best weekend in toys. Figura Obscura. Until next time, may the force be with you.